table.
Get their ballot, they're registered, and whose name is on the list.
But anyway, we had a big, all the media was there.
Thank you all for coming. This is another great turnout. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to make an announcement statement. In discussions with the leaders of State Central Committee, the chairman and first vice chairwoman, I asked them how the first meeting should be ran due to no members being elected at the party canvass at Lower Botetourt back in March. I was advised to publish a notice of the requirements to become a member of this committee for the June 2nd meeting and set a deadline for the filing of those applications. That notice was published on May 11th on the committee's official Facebook page, followed by 846 individuals, as well as the committee's official website, which the committee has had up and running since at least September of 2015. Those two forms have always been used by the committee to communicate important announcements, notifications, and events. The deadline to file to be a member and thus vote at tonight's meeting was May 20th. That gave everyone 10 days to either deliver their application in person or simply place in the mail by May 20th. We received over 170 applications, tripling those who were present at the first meeting 2 years ago. I was further advised to then publish the names of everyone who properly filed so that everyone had noticed their application was received or not received. I received no late applications or a complaint from a specific individual that their name was not on the list because they had submitted their form. The whole purpose of setting a deadline for applications was to allow for a membership list to be created for roll call and attendance, prepare ballots for the voting process, confirm the voter registration status, and move the venue to a larger location should it become necessary, all of which has been done. Those whose name is on the list that has been published for over a week as having properly filed will be allowed to vote tonight. If your name is not on that list, your application was not received. It does not prevent you from joining the committee. It simply means you are not a member for tonight's meeting for voting purposes. Having received this guidance from the leaders at RPV, I will not deviate from their guidance.
Chairman, I sent you an email concerning my husband's application and the $50 that was sent in mid your first term. I got an email saying we'll credit it, write a check for $25. I let you know I was going to bring that application for today.
Yes, you would bring his application to join today. I understood that.
Yes, so I expected him to be able to vote today because $25 carried over, and I just
And that's why when he resubmits his application and rejoins, he will only have to pay $25.
Yes, and I presented that to Mrs. Austin at the door.
Today?
Yes.
Okay, that is not by the May 20th.
Yes, but he would already have paid, and the bylaws do say you can carry over.
The dues, yes. Okay, that's why he will only have to pay $25. You are correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Time is 7:19. I call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chairman, you've allowed one person to speak regarding membership, and until we have...
Mr. Go, please sit down. I'm trying to call the meeting to order so we can say a prayer. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Chairman, you've allowed one person to speak.
Mr. Go, please sit down.
Membership is at stake here, and that is
Mr.
one of
Go,
the terms
please sit down so we
forward.
can proceed. Thank you. Mr. John Alderson, would you please open us up with a word of prayer, please?
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity to gather in a place like this for the reasons we're assembled. It's because you have given us a land that is beautiful and bountiful and by your grace still free. We seek your presence here tonight. We seek your wisdom here tonight. Lord, we ask that in the process this evening, that we would be respectful to one another, that we would honor courtesy and civility. Lord, we thank you again for all you've done for us as members of Botetourt County. We thank you for your blessings on America. We ask these blessings and seek your presence in the name of Christ Jesus, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sheriff Ward, if you'd now come forward and read the Republican Creed.
Everyone can hear me. This is the Virginia Republican Creed. We believe that the free enterprise system is the most productive supplier of human needs and economic justice. That all individuals are entitled to equal rights, justice, and opportunities and should assume their responsibilities as citizens in a free society. That fiscal responsibility and budgetary restraints must be exercised at all levels of government. That the federal government must preserve individual liberty by observing constitutional limitations. That peace is best preserved through a strong national defense. That faith in God, as recognized by our founding fathers, is essential to the moral fiber of the nation.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sheriff Ward.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to
Mr.
speak
Goode.
about the membership of this meeting. Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
move...
Goode, we are not at that point yet. If you had something to add to the agenda when we get to the adoption of the agenda, you can make a motion.
Mr.
Right
Chairman.
now, you are out of order.
Mr. Chairman,
Just wait.
Everything that we vote
We are
on
now to the adoption of the agenda.
will depend on everything
Mr.
that we vote
Goode.
on will depend on the membership.
There are a lot of people who came here tonight so we could proceed with the meeting and
And I
discuss
expect
issues.
the people that
If you have a
try to
topic,
join-
make a motion
Mr.
at the
Chairman.
adoption of the agenda. Do I have,
I move that all...
is there a second? Stop.
This meeting shall be...
Mr. Goode,
for membership.
Mr. Goode, sit down.
Eligible to vote.
Okay. There was a motion to pass the agenda as proposed. There was a second. So now the proper procedure is there for be discussion. The person who made the motion gets the first chance to discuss it. Is there any other discussion of the adoption of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, who made the motion? You didn't even recognize him while I was trying to speak, and you failed to recognize...
That is because you were speaking out of order, Mr. Goode. If you would like to stand and be recognized and discuss the motion that was made, which was to adopt the agenda, please do so.
The motion to adopt the agenda is illegitimate when the membership of this meeting has not been established.
The membership of this meeting was established when people filed and submitted their forms, and those names were all published. Mr. Goode, if you had an issue with the names on that, you could have approached me and discussed that.
Your call that was issued prior to the canvass that occurred March the 19th said that anyone who joined at the first meeting could be a member, and that would establish membership. And then on May the 10th, when you put a notice out that we would have our first meeting at the Fincastle firehouse, that we would just bring our applications there. And then 2 days later, you come up with this 7-day pre-filing, did not notify people in sufficient time, and it violated the bylaws in adopting this position. We have allowed, the bylaws allow, that we should be able to become a member and vote in this meeting. And I object strenuously to adoption of an agenda without establishing the membership.
Okay, now we are back to the motion. The motion was to adopt the agenda. There was a second. Is there any more discussion on the adoption or not adoption of the agenda? Mr. Michael.
I have 3 items I'd like to add to the agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Louder. Louder. Louder.
That's all.
You're not making a motion to adopt it. The motion on the floor is to discuss whether or not to do it. So you have a motion, or you want to say you're not in favor of adopting it as is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's a motion to adopt the agenda. The second, I move that we vote on the motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay. That's the motion before the body. Is there any more discussion on that?
Walt, make the amendment. Come on.
Mr. Chairman, I want to modify the agenda. Modify the
Okay.
motion, sorry. Modify the motion.
I can't change the agenda if I don't know what to modify it to.
I'm modifying the first.
Yes, hold on. Mr. Massow, Chairman Massow.
Hey, you works fine. The right way to handle this is, I believe that a motion was made and there was a second.
Yes.
Mr. Michael, if he wants to make a amendment and offer an amendment, somebody has to second that. Now, this is going to get a little confusing. You then have to vote on whether to add Mr. Michael's amendments. That goes up or down, then you go back and vote on the original motion.
That's correct.
Chairman, I think there has to be a
Okay,
substitute
then I'd
That's
like
what I
to
just
amend the agenda with 3
You have to be
additional items.
recognized.
Hold on. One of the reasons I cannot control this is because people are standing up and talking out of turn. If you have something to say, raise your hand. You will be recognized by me, and you will have a chance to speak. Mr. Michaels.
I would like to amend the agenda approval by adding 3 items to the agenda. Those 3 items are Robert's Rules of Order, meeting minutes, and meetings, membership meetings.
You want to add the discussion of Robert's Rules of Order, and the second thing is what?
Meeting minutes,
What minutes? We already have minutes on the agenda,
understood,
so I don't want to be duplicated.
the process.
Okay, the process, minutes are taken by the secretary. We are electing a secretary tonight who will then take those minutes.
Those are the 3 items, and I know you're pressed for time. I can do the first one in 3 minutes. I can do the second and third in 1 minute.
Okay. The proper thing, and I'll correct Mr. Michaels, he's trying to make a substitute motion. Okay. He has now stated he wants to have Robert's Rules of Order and minutes. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There was a third item and I didn't hear what it was. Adding new members.
Adding new members? New members is already on the agenda, Mr.
Up to
Michaels.
the top.
I did not say that. I said membership meetings.
Membership meeting. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, regarding this modification to the agenda, I would like that we also discuss as a first item the acceptance of membership.
Now there's 3 motions on the floor. You're asking to amend his amendment to move it to a...
Add the acceptance of membership. The number 1 item remaining on the agenda.
Mr. Goode, do you make that additional statement knowing full well that anyone thus added to membership here tonight will not be allowed to vote? Do you still wish to do that?
I don't acknowledge that anyone who becomes a member tonight would not be able to vote. No.
Okay. Discussion, yes, Ms. Smith.
Can you restate, I mean, you're doing this based on the guidance that you received from the RPD.
That's exactly right.
So this is already set, it's already been approved, it's already been decided. I really don't understand why we're going through this.
Mr. Michaels, before, we're getting ready to vote on your substitute motion here in just a second. Do you want to say anything as to why we should be doing this when we have 10 candidates to be electing here in the next few minutes? Do you have a reason or anything you want to provide in support of why we should be adding 3 different additional topics to the agenda?
I do.
Okay, I'll give you.
I would like to present that whenever we. Speak up.
Well, we're getting ready to do a roll call vote on your request.
Thank you.
Okay? I'm going to give you a minute if you want to tell the people in this audience why we should be adding this. Would you like that minute to do so?
The reason I think we need to do that is so we know what we're doing and how we're going to do business from here on.
Mr. Miller, you have the sign-in sheet and notations for people, members who checked in here today?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Alston, do you have a sheet to record the votes? Okay. At this point, we are going to do a roll call vote on Mr. Michael's amendment to the original motion. If you vote yay, you are voting to add these 3 additional items to the agenda on top of what's already on there. If you vote no, then we will revert back to the original motion to adopt the agenda, and we will have to now vote on that. So,
Mr. Chairman, point of clarification.
yes, Mr. Alston.
Mr. Chairman, point of clarification. You are not deviating from the information provided to you by RPV Virginia as to how this meeting should be conducted, who can legitimately vote in this meeting by this motion, are you?
I am not.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, once again, to restate this, you are going to be, names will be called from people who checked in who were members. You will vote yay if you would like these 3 topics added to the agenda. You will vote no if you do not wish them to be added. Then, once we have that vote tallied, we may have to reconsider the original motion, which was to adopt the agenda as is.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Goode, please sit down so we can proceed.
You have not addressed.
Mr. Miller, would you please start with the roll call?
A motion to amend his amendment.
Mr. Goode, we're trying to vote on the amendment. Can you please sit down so we can conduct business?
You have got to deal with the Second Amendment prior to dealing with his amendment.
Mr. Miller, would you please start with a roll call vote?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Goode, he is taking, we are at the point where we are taking votes, okay?
You're taking them out of order. You're taking them out of order.
Mr. Goode, please sit down.
You are not guide here. We follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay. Mr. Miller, would you please start with first name?
Somebody calls somebody a bonehead. That's ridiculous. Come out here.
John Alderson.
Mr. Miller, here you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Conducting the vote right now.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make a motion. Shut up! Got a motion on the floor. I'm make a motion that you read the Republican creed again to set all these people down. If you talk about us getting out of hand, what about them? Matt Smith and Matt Ward needs to carry them out of here.
I'm asking everyone now just to be quiet so a roll call vote can be taken. Thank you.
Quit calling names. Quit calling names.
John Alderson,
No.
Doris Alderson, John Alexander,
No.
Danielle Alexander,
No.
Tim Amos,
Yes.
Jackie Amos,
Yes.
Bill Arney, Kathy Austin,
No.
Terry Austin,
No.
Michelle Austin, Margaret Bailey,
Yes.
Dick Bailey,
No.
Kelly Bailey, proxy. Stephen Bailey,
No.
David Bandy, Cindy Bandy, Scott Beard, Emma Beard, proxy. And that's Edith Austin.
Edith Austin is the proxy.
Edith Austin? No. Austin Beard,
No.
Russell Bennett,
Yes.
William Bentley,
No.
Jeffrey Boone,
No.
Chris Booth,
No.
Donna Booth, CJ Booth,
No.
Pamela Breeden,
No.
Jay Brinkley, proxy,
No.
Matthew Brodsky, proxy,
Yes.
April Brown,
She left.
William Brown,
He left.
Anna Bruce,
Yes.
Barbara Campbell, Brandy Campbell,
Yes.
Brenda Clark,
Yes.
Linda Clark,
No.
Ed Clark, Steve Clinton, Kathleen Clinton, Lindsay Cobb,
Yes.
John Cooper, proxy,
No.
Matt Cooper,
No.
Connie Cooper,
No.
David Crotty,
No.
Stephen Dean,
Yes.
Nancy Dean,
Yes.
David Dillo,
No.
Brenda Edmondson,
Yes.
Belinda Edwards,
Yes.
Mike Flint,
No.
Richard Flora, Laverne Flora, Jerry Fraley, Sandy Gates, Doug Gimbert, Ben Gimbert, proxy,
Yes.
Molly Gimbert, Danny Goad,
Yes.
Rhonda Goad,
Yes.
Jenna Grigg,
No.
Joe Haynes,
No.
Emily Hopkins,
Yes.
Ryan Kidd, proxy, Chip Weldon Lawrence, proxy,
No.
Kate Lawrence,
No.
Kim Lawrence, proxy, Jordan Lawrence, proxy,
No.
Alan Lehman,
No.
Ann Lehman,
No.
Christine Liana,
Yes.
Stevie Lovell,
No.
Barbara Lovell,
No.
Jim Luddington,
Yes.
Sally Madden, Dana McCaleb, Ray McCaleb, Mary Ann McConnell,
Yes.
Mike Merritt, Walter Michael,
Yes.
Elaine Michael, Mary Ann Miller, proxy. I vote no. Candace Monahan, David Moyer, Amy Moyer, Joe Obenchain, proxy. Grace Parker, Gary Purdue, proxy.
Yes.
Matthew Payton, proxy. No. Dylan Poling,
Yes.
Christy Porter, proxy.
No.
Joseph Porter, proxy.
No.
Alan Powers, Carol Pugh, Darrell Pugh, Jim Reynolds, Betty Reynolds, Sarah Reynolds,
No.
Max Scotthorn,
No.
Denise Scotthorn, Gene Simmons, Chad Simmons,
No.
Ann Simmons, Ray Sloan, Wyatt Smith, Mary Beth Smith, Andrea Smith, Tim Snyder, Greg Spickard, Brenda Stinnett, William Stowell,
Yes.
Roy Thacker, Andrew Tunnell,
Yes.
Mark Tyson,
I need Roy Thacker again.
Roy Thacker was a yes. Mark Tyson's a yes. Kim Tyson, Sean Ulrich, Christy Ulrich, Kathleen Ulrich, Harry Ulrich, and Brian Ulrich, Matt Ward, Anna Weddle, Amy White, Ashley Whitson,
Yes.
Tom Wilbin, John Williamson, proxy, Mr. Snyder, Jenny Wilson, Jennifer Wise, proxy,
Yes.
Sean Rakowski, proxy, Deskins is the last name, Tim Yates, Tammy Yates, Hunter Young.
Yeah, but I started.
here to talk to me. Yeah. They've been known when they get out.
I got 90, I missed one. I got 90.
The roll call vote is 90 noes and 38 yeses. The amendment to the motion made to adopt the agenda has failed, 90 to 38, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
90 to 38. We will now revert back to the original motion, which was to adopt the agenda as stated. With the vote being 90 to 38, is there any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Goode. Are you going to speak to the,
I'm going to speak to the agenda.
okay, are you going to speak to the motion that was made?
I'm going to speak to the agenda.
Well, I'm going to ask you if your remarks are not to the motion that's on the floor, then any other discussion is out of order. Is that what you were going to
If
speak
you will
to?
allow me to make the motion, the amendment, then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Proceed.
May I proceed?
Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend the agenda, and as a first order of business on the remaining items, that we discuss membership. Membership of this meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a request. There appears to be a number of people here that have been disenfranchised in being able to vote. My request respectfully is to determine about how many people that represents. Is it 3? Is it 35? Is it 300? How many people are we talking about that are here that are not able to vote because of what has occurred?
If it's a reasonable request, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One in the back. 12. Okay. Now we're going to get back to the topic. Are you making an amendment to Mr. Alston's motion for the agenda to be changed again?
Are you
Yes.
talking to me?
Yes, you didn't.
I'll
You
make
said
it
you
a-
made a motion, but there was already a motion on the table. So are you making a motion to amend his?
Sir, I made an amendment to the motion
Okay.
so that to include discussion of membership as the first item of the agenda in the remaining business. Is that clear? And there was a second.
That is clear.
Did you hear the
That
second?
is second. Is there any further discussion on that? Because we're getting ready to do a roll call on that. And when that roll call vote is done, if you vote no to this, you are essentially, and I'm just trying to simplify things here, you are voting no to this amendment. You are going to essentially be voting to adopt the agenda as is.
Point of order. Mr. Chairman, we're voting on the amendment to the agenda, not the agenda.
I know that. I'm just trying to explain what the effect is. And when we vote on this, if it fails, then once again, we're reverting back to adopting the agenda as it states.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, even if we were to amend the agenda to discuss membership earlier, those members still can't vote at this meeting, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry.
John Alderson. Doris Alderson. John Alexander.
No.
Danielle Alexander.
No.
Tim Amos.
Yes.
Jackie Amos. Bill Arney. Kathy Austin.
No.
Terry Austin. Michelle Austin. Margaret Bailey.
Yes.
Dick Bailey.
No.
Kelly Bailey, proxy.
No.
Stephen Bailey.
No.
Scott Beard. Emma Beard, proxy. Edith Austin. Austin Beard.
No.
Russell Bennett. William Bentley. Jeffrey Boone.
No.
Chris Booth.
Yes.
Donna Booth. CJ Booth.
No.
Pamela Breeden.
No.
Jay Brinkley, proxy. Leffel.
No.
Matthew Brodsky, proxy.
Yes.
Anna Bruce.
Yes.
Barbara Campbell. Randy Campbell.
Yes.
Brenda Clark.
Yes.
Linda Clark.
No.
Ed Clark.
No.
Steve Clinton.
No.
Kathleen Clinton. Lindsay Cobb.
Yes.
John Cooper, proxy.
No.
Matt Cooper.
No.
Connie Cooper.
No.
David Crotty.
No.
Stephen Dean.
Yes.
Nancy Dean.
Yes.
David Dillow.
No.
Brenda Emerson.
Yes.
Belinda Edwards. Belinda Edwards.
Yes.
No. Mike Flint.
No.
Richard Flora.
No.
Laverne Flora.
No.
Jerry Fraley.
No.
Sandy Gates.
No.
Doug Gimbert.
Yes.
Ben Gimbert, proxy.
Yes.
Molly Gimbert.
Yes.
Danny Goode.
Yes.
Rhonda Goode. Jenna Grigg.
No.
Joe Haynes.
No.
Emily Hopkins.
Yes.
Ryan Kidd, proxy. S. Pappas.
No.
Weldon Lawrence, proxy.
No.
Kate Lawrence.
No.
Kim Lawrence, proxy. Jordan Lawrence,
No.
proxy. Alan Lehman.
No.
Ann Lehman.
No.
Christine Liana.
Yes.
Stevie Lovell.
No.
Barbara Lovell.
No.
Jim Ludington.
Yes.
Sally Madden.
Yes.
Danny McCaleb.
No.
Ray McCaleb.
No.
Marianne McConnell.
Yes.
Mike Merritt.
Yes.
Walter Michael.
Yes.
Elaine Michael.
Yes.
Marianne Miller, proxy. Brian Blake. I vote no. Candace Monahan. David Moyer.
No.
Amy Moyer. Joe Openshane, proxy. Grace Parker.
No.
Gary Perdue.
Yes.
Matthew Payton, proxy.
No.
Dylan Poland.
Yes, sir.
Christy Porter, proxy.
No.
Joseph Porter, proxy.
No.
Alan Powers. Carol Pugh. Darrell Pugh. Jim Reynolds.
No.
Betty Reynolds.
No.
Sarah Reynolds.
No.
Max Scotthorn.
No.
Denise Scotthorn. Gene Simmons. Chad Simmons. Ann Simmons.
No.
Ray Sloan.
No.
Wyatt Smith. Mary Beth Smith.
No.
Andrea Smith. Tim Snyder.
No.
Craig Spickard. Brenda Stennett. William Stovall.
Yes.
Roy Thacker. Andrew Tennell. Mark Tyson. Kim Tyson. Sean Ulrich. Christy Ulrich. Kathleen Ulrich. Harry Ulrich. Brian Ulrich. Matt Ward. Anna Weddle. Amy White. Ashley Whitson. Tom Wilman. John Williamson, proxy. Jenny Wilson. Jennifer Wise, proxy. Foley. Sean Murkowski, proxy. Eskins. Tim Yates. Tam Yates. Hunter Young. That'd be 89 noes and 39 yeses.
That amendment to Mr. Austin's motion was also failed. Change was one vote, less than the previous vote. We are now back to the original motion to adopt the agenda as is.
Call the question.
The question is being called, with the vote being 89 to 30-something. All in favor of adopting the agenda as is, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It has it. Motion passes. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes. When you checked in, you should have been given a ballot if you were a member, as well as a clipboard, as well as the minutes from the last meeting. Is there any motion to the adoption of the minutes?
I'll make a motion that you read the minutes, Chairman.
Yeah.
I'll make a supplement motion. I move for the adoption of the minutes as read.
Second.
Okay.
Point of order.
Is there any discussion?
Point of order.
Yes.
A substitute motion cannot be made that just strictly reverses the motion that has been made.
Well, I can't argue about that. I don't know whether that's different or not. I'm going to ask the parliamentarian if he is aware of that rule. Okay. Do you have the minutes?
Will you save some time and just read them?
The Botetourt County Republican Committee minutes of the meeting held January 27, 2022, Troutville Town Hall, Troutville, Virginia. Chairman Simmons called the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Ed Clark gave the invocation. Chairman Simmons led the group in the Pledge of Allegiance. Botetourt County Treasurer Bill Arney read the Republican Creed. Meeting agenda, Billy Martin made a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Scott Beard seconded the motion. Voice vote aye. Prior meeting minutes. John Alexander made a motion that the minutes be accepted as presented. Billy Martin seconded the motion. Voice vote aye. Chairman Simmons reported on the results of the November 2021 election. Republicans have regained control of the House of Delegates with 52 to 48 majority. Republicans were victorious in the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general races. Democrats still have control of the state Senate. In November 2021, 17,056 citizens voted in Botetourt County, with 13,066 votes cast for Glenn Youngkin. In November 2017, 12,502 citizens voted in Botetourt County, with 8,965 votes cast for Ed Gillespie. Chairman Simmons also noted that the committee donated $13,000 to candidates during 2021. Treasurer's report. Treasurer Chris Booth presented the treasurer's report. New business. Chairman Simmons reported on some position changes on the executive committee due to recent elections for the Botetourt County Republican Women's Group. Mary Beth Smith is elected president of the BCRW, and Scott Beard will replace her as public relations director for the BCRC. Chairman Simmons reported on the committee's reconstitution process along with several upcoming elections. Congressman Ben Klein is running for re-election and has an opponent. Additionally, 6th District Chairman John Massoud is running for re-election and currently has no opponent. However, we need to write the call for our own committee chairman's election as though we are having a 6th District convention. Scott Beard made a motion that the executive committee be allowed to plan the party canvass to elect the next committee chairman, as well as delegates to the 6th District convention. Motion seconded by Billy Martin. Voice vote aye. Chairman Simmons noted that the executive committee would need to meet soon in order to plan for the event because the deadline for completion of these events would be April 11th. In order to make the necessary arrangements for a location and to ensure proper advance notices, etc., the party canvass would need to be held sometime in mid-March, being mindful of Botetourt County School spring break and Easter. Kendall Bailey from Delegate Chris Head's office spoke to the group regarding Delegate Head's committee assignments and activities. He also read a prepared statement from Delegate Head regarding masking. Danny Goad asked where the new redistricting maps could be found online. Secretary Smith indicated that she would provide him with a link in an email. There being no other items on the agenda, the meeting was adjourned at 8:05 p.m. with a motion to adjourn by Scott Beard.
Mr. Chairman, I have a correction. At the end of the meeting, Dr. Bruce attempted to speak regarding an individual's membership. He was not allowed to speak by the chairman, and I made a motion to allow him to speak, at which point the meeting was immediately adjourned.
By the parliamentarian.
You're making a motion that go into the minutes.
I'm giving you a correction to the minutes.
Okay. You're giving me the correction. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes that were just read?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Yes.
I heard about 5 or 6. The amendment, or the motion to adopt the minutes has passed overwhelmingly. Moving on to the chairman's report.
I had that on the floor, motion on the floor, and you haven't talked.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You took it.
Knowing the vote that just took place, I will go back if you want me to.
Chairman, you know, it's come to this committee that there's more division in this committee, and it gets worse and worse with every meeting. This is the first time we see the minutes, and there was no amendment. There's nothing in that minutes that said this parliamentarian stood in the very back and point of order, and he's supposed to be neutral to all parties of this committee. He was in violation of the parliamentarian. So I want that added into the minutes. I need an agenda change for that put in the minutes.
We will now vote on it.
You might vote on it, but you're gonna still be heard.
I hear you. That's why we're going to do another vote. All in favor of adopting the minutes you just read, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Once again, the ayes have it. We are moving on to the chairman's report. We have 178 total members at the beginning of tonight's meeting. As I said earlier, that is more than 3 times than we had 2 years ago at the first fall meeting. We ended up at the end of the last 2-year term somewhere around 180, but that was at the end of 2 years of people coming and joining throughout that 2-year period. There is going to be a Republican primary. I'm sure you're all aware that it's going to be on June 21st. Go to your normal voting precinct. Early voting numbers have really been down. I called the registrar's office last week when I was alerted by the 6th district that all the 6th district localities have really low turnout for early voting. The reason I called initially is because I was advised early last week that only 30 people in all of Botetourt County had voted early in person. I'd just like to encourage everyone to go out and vote early. I know we all tend to like that traditional style of going to your voting precinct, and if you want to do that, fine. But I just want everyone to remember, life happens, things come up, emergencies happen, family emergencies, and even though you have every intention of getting there on election day, something might come up where you can't get there. So if you're driving through the town of Fincastle, pop into the registrar's office. The last day to vote in person is going to be June 18th. June 10th at 5 is the last day to request that a ballot be mailed to you. And of course, election day, the 21st, open from 6 to 7 p.m. And also the second reason, this has never happened to me personally, but I'm sure we've all heard a story out there, whether it's true or not, that someone showed up to vote on election day and poll worker said, "We already have you down as having voted." So that's another reason to get out there and vote early. For other details, just go to botetourtva.gov. The registrar's office has a link on there. Tracy Clark is a wonderful registrar. She has provided a wealth of information with lots of details on the website if you have any questions. Moving on to the treasurer's report, Mr. Booth, would you like the mic or you just want to speak loudly?
I'll just stand here and speak loudly.
Okay.
So since it's early on in the year, we only have 4 expenses so far year to date. We started the year with $6,386.52. We've spent $481.63. The only receipts we have got is for membership dues, and that was $7,954.17, bringing our current balance as of yesterday to $13,859.06. I printed out some copies, not nearly enough for everybody, but if you want a copy, let me know. I've got it right here.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Mr. Booth. Moving on to the election of all officers. Within the committee, there's a vice chair, secretary, treasurer, precinct coordinator, legal advisor, 5 magisterial chairmen. So is there anyone whose name is on that list as being a member who is in here that did not get their ballot? All right. So how we'll do this vote to limit the number of times that individuals have to get up and down. I will open the chair. First, I will describe the position and what it says in the bylaws, the description of that position is. I will then open the floor for nominations. You can self-nominate yourself, or someone can nominate you. It doesn't matter. If you're nominated, I'll ask you if you accept, and I'll give you 30 seconds or so to, if you want to say anything at all, just introduce yourself to the committee or state why you want the position. When it becomes clear that no one else is seeking that position, I will close the floor for nominations. and ask you to place your vote for whoever has been nominated to run for that position. So first up is the vice chairman. The general duties of the vice chairman shall be to provide assistance and direction to the various subcommittees such as finance, etc. He shall serve in the absence of the chairman, and he may attend all district and special meetings. At this time, Tim Snyder. Mr. Snyder, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Snyder, would you like to stand up or say anything, introduce yourself to the committee?
Good evening. My name is Tim Snyder, a long-term Botetourt County citizen. By long-term, I mean I graduated from Breckenridge VI in North Botetourt. I'm honored to serve you, the Republican Party. I'll do my best to make sure that as Republicans, our voice is heard. I am on record in a public forum stating I am a Republican. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Is there anyone else seeking vice chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Walter Michael.
Walter Michael. Mr. Michael, do you accept?
I do.
Mr. Michael, would you like to say anything?
Yes, please. I was your vice chair last term, and if you recall, one of my objectives was to increase voter turnout, and I demonstrated as to what the numbers were in order to overcome the 3 major Democrat strongholds in the state of Virginia. And we set up booths at shopping centers, we sold yard signs, we knocked on doors, and we also registered people to vote. And myself and Doug Gimbert were invited to go down to Stewart, Virginia, to do presentations down there, getting ready for the election. And whenever the discussions dragged on and they wanted to close up the conference center, the conference went outside into the parking lot and the discussions continued until sundown. If I am elected, I will work with you to improve voter integrity. If you recall, that's what Mr. Youngkin did. He got inside poll workers at many of the precincts, and even Fairfax County was able to give their vote count in a timely manner. I have a 7-point program to implement this, and so I'm probably getting close to the end of my time, so I would thank you for your vote, and together we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Is there anyone else seeking the position of vice chair? And with that, I will close the nominations. Please take your ballot and enter either Tim Snyder or Walter Michaels.
Mr. Chairman, I have a request. You had offered the microphone to the treasurer. There are a lot of people having difficulty hearing.
Sure.
Could the microphone be provided to the people that are speaking?
If anyone seeking a nomination would like the microphone, just ask, and I'll hand it down to Mr. Miller, and he'll bring it to you.
Thank you.
Everyone had time to place their vote between Tim Snyder and Walter Michael? Hearing nothing to the contrary, we will move on to secretary. The general duties of the secretary shall be to take the minutes and maintain the records of the county committee and any executive committee meetings, and maintain the roster and attendance record of the county committee members. He shall sign, together with the chairman, all official documents, call of county committee or executive committees meetings upon a petition, and so forth. The gist that I want people to take if they're considering this position is you'll be taking minutes, you'll be maintaining those records, making copies of them and bringing them to the meeting for members. Is Are there any nominations for the position of secretary?
Chairman,
Yes.
nominate Hannah Bruce.
Chairman, I'd like to nominate Grace Parker.
First, Anna Bruce, do you accept that nomination?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And you nominated Grace Parker. Ms. Parker, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I do.
Is there anyone else seeking the position of secretary? Hearing nothing to the contrary, nominations for secretary have closed. Please place your vote for Anna Bruce or Grace Parker.
Are they gonna speak?
Say something?
Oh, I truly apologize. Would either one of you ladies like to say something?
Yes, that's Sharon, I
Yeah.
did put a few notes together. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Bruce. My husband and I moved to this county about 25 years ago, and he and I have run a business here since then. So basically, I'm a resident of the county, and I'm a small business owner. I've never been employed by the county, and I've never been employed by an elected official or state or county. In some ways, I guess that puts me as a complete outsider. I have held this position in many other organizations, both professional and in my hobbies, and I would be very pleased to be the secretary for this group. Thank you.
Ms. Parker, would you like to say anything?
Yes, please. Hello, everyone. I'm Grace Parker, and I am a resident of Botetourt County. I was raised here. In fact, I live in my home on my family farm in Springwood. I was raised by conservative parents, and the Republican creed rings true to my background. I've participated and supported local Republican candidates, local, state, and federal Republican candidates. I'm a lifelong active member of Buchanan Presbyterian Church. I'm an elder there. In fact, I serve as clerk of session right now. I have done that several times over the years. I've been an elder for 25 years. Last Friday, I finished my 35th year in education. 32 of those years I've been teaching in Botetourt, and I'm proud to be a Republican teacher. It's well known. No apologies. So I am Republican through and through. For almost 10 years, my late husband Steve and I ran a driver training business in the county. We taught people of all ages. And so we filed and submitted papers with the DMV, and that requires, as you can imagine, some strength. I'm active in the Daughters of the American Revolution. I've served in offices and capacities there as well over the years. I'm a member of the Botetourt County Republican Women's Club, and I am secretary for that club as well. And it would be my honor to serve you all as secretary of this committee. I'd really like to take this energy in the room and focus it into a good, solid, unified effort on a Republican level. And I would really appreciate your support. Thank you.
And with that said, please place your vote for Grace Parker or Anna Bruce for secretary. Has everyone had sufficient time? Hearing nothing to the contrary, we'll move on to treasurer. The duties of the treasurer shall be custodian of the county committee funds, which shall include the receiving, safekeeping, dispersing, and recording. Are there any nominations for the position of treasurer?
Chairman, I nominate Chris Booth.
Mr. Booth, do you accept?
Yes.
Is there anyone else seeking the position of treasurer? Going once, twice. Mr. Booth is the sole candidate for treasurer. Moving on to precinct coordinator. The precinct coordinator, their duties shall be to provide assistance and direction of precinct work. This is mainly stuff that is done on election day and the weeks or days leading up to election day. He or she will coordinate with the appointed precinct captains. For those not familiar, precinct captains are essentially volunteers that live in the various districts throughout the county that agree to work on election day. They arrange for poll workers on election day and provide a leadership role in the election of Republican candidates within the county. So how we saw this the past 2 years was Kathy Alston taking out boxes of sample ballots. You know, there's 10 different precincts throughout the county, so it's a job that on election day, you're driving each locale, making sure volunteers, making sure the signs are up at the precincts for our Republican candidates, maybe bring water to the volunteers. Someone has to leave, working the polls, have someone in line you can call. That's kind of the gist of that. With that said, do I have any nominees for precinct coordinator? I see you, sir. Mr. Beard, do you accept? And I saw a hand raised up. She took yours? Okay. All right, so a second person nominating Scott Beard. Yes, sir.
I nominate Steve Dean.
Steve Dean. Mr. Dean, do you accept? Mr. Beard, would you like to say something?
I've worked as a Buchanan Magisterial District Chairman, Fincastle Magisterial Chairman, Deputy Sheriff here in the county, double way around in the county, working, poll workers, handing out ballots, just about every precinct here. Be glad to work with anybody, everybody we can. I've seen firsthand what happens when people say they're going to work and then don't do it. It causes a lot of discontent on the party I like to work with everybody, do everything we can to get them voted in to the elected office.
Thank you, Mr. Beard. Mr. Dean, would you like the mic or would you like to say anything?
Good evening. I'm a 42-year resident of Botetourt County. I have run a successful business for 40 years. I know how to organize. I know how to get along with people and to get the best out of people. I ran a campaign for school board, so I understand what it takes. I understand what it takes to organize, to get the advertisement material out, to make sure that everything's coordinated on that election day. We've got to put up signs, work out. I knocked on over 1,000 doors when I was running for the school board, so I know what it takes. I get along great with people, and I'd love to be able to work with our chairman. Thank you very much.
Quite honestly, can't recall if I ever closed the floor for nominations for this position. So just to make sure, is there anyone else seeking the position of precinct coordinator? Please place your vote for Scott Beard or Steve Dean for precinct coordinator. Everyone had enough time to place their vote. Hearing nothing to the contrary, we will move on to legal advisor. The duties of the legal advisor, who shall be an attorney at law, shall be to advise the county committee on legal matters relating to party business. With that said, are there any nominations for the position of legal advisor?
Chairman, I nominate John Alexander.
Mr. Alexander, do you accept? Is there anyone else seeking that position? With that, the floor to nominations is closed. Mr. Alexander is the sole candidate for legal advisor. That brings us to the 5 magisterial chairmen. There are 1 magisterial chairman for each of the 5 districts: Blue Ridge, Buchanan, Fincastle, Amsterdam Valley. To run for this chairman, you are supposed to live in that area. If for some reason we have no one who lives in that area that's seeking that position, we'll take, if someone wants to volunteer to do it, they can. But I will start off first with Buchanan. Is there anyone here who wishes to be the Buchanan magisterial chairman? And first off, I'll step back. The duties are essentially what I stated with county precinct coordinator. The chairman the precinct coordinator should know people in the community that they can work with to get volunteers, other Republicans, people who are willing to actually come out to the polls and work a two-hour shift. If we don't have people at the polls that are standing there handing out literature, or at a minimum just saying hi, wearing a red tie or a red shirt, I know it doesn't sound like much, but people, when they come to the polls, they want to see that excitement. They want to see other like-minded individuals there encouraging people to vote Republican. It may not change their vote, but we don't know. All we can do is do our best. So that's the gist of that position. With that said, Buchanan, magisterial chair.
Point of information.
Yes.
Could we move down the ballot as the districts are listed on the ballot? They are listed alphabetically.
I'm sorry, I don't have a ballot in front of me.
Let me read this, please. Amsterdam, Blue Ridge, Buchanan, Fincastle, and then ballot. I think it would make it easier for people to follow along.
So Amsterdam, Blue Ridge.
Buchanan, Fincastle, and ballot.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize, I don't have a ballot in front of me to see that. Amsterdam. Any nominations for the Amsterdam district? Yes, sir.
I nominate Jim Ludington.
Jim Ludington. Mr. Ludington, do you accept? Do I have any other nominations for that position?
Nominate C.J. Booth.
See, Mr. Booth, do you accept?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ludington, you were nominated first. Would you like to say anything, and would you like the microphone? Mr. Booth, would you like to say anything?
Thank you. I'm C.J. Booth. Good evening. I live in the Amsterdam district. I've been a lifelong resident of Botetourt my entire life. I've been on the Trouttville Town Council before for 8 years. Been the mayor of the town of Trouttville. So I've got a little experience in that. Also a lifelong volunteer of the county. Volunteer at the Trouttville Fire Department. So I'm very well versed in the county. I would like your support. Thank you.
Mr. Booth and Mr. Ludington for running for this position. Anyone else seeking Amsterdam magisterial chair? Hearing nothing to the contrary, the floor is now closed. Please place your vote for C.J. Booth or Jim Ludington. Moving on to Blue Ridge. Is there anyone seeking to become the magisterial chair for Blue Ridge? Ms. Pugh, do you accept?
Chairman, I nominate Ed Clark.
Mr. Clark, do you accept? Anybody else seeking that position? Hearing nothing to the contrary, the floor is closed for nominations. Ms. Pugh, would you like to say anything?
Good evening, everyone. As you said, I'm Carol Pugh. I do live in Blue Ridge. I'm a lifetime resident of Botetourt County. I come from a long line of farming family. I work hard. That's where I got that ability. I worked the polls last year, my husband and I. We worked the colonial poll, and we worked it all day. But I don't know about those 2-hour shifts he was talking about. We were there for the entire day. But we are willing to do that. And I'm willing to do that again. I'm willing to work for the people of Blue Ridge especially. I'd like to see an increase in the voter participation in Blue Ridge, because it was right around 40% in person. So I'd appreciate your votes, and if you'll vote for me, I'll work hard for you. Thank you.
Mr. Clark, would you like to say anything, or would you like Mike?
No, sir, it's 8:30 and I'll pay it.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Please place your vote for Carol Pugh or Ed Clark. Moving on to Buchanan Magisterial Chair. Do you have any nominations for Buchanan? Mr. Lovell has nominated Kathy Alston. Ms. Alston, do you accept? Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean has nominated Brandy Campbell. Ms. Campbell, do you accept? Anyone else seeking that nomination? With that, the floor is closed. Ms. Alston, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I live in Buchanan. I've lived in Botetourt County my entire life, and I have done the duties of the job